Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be something that I've had a hard time talking about publicly. It took me a long time to decide if I was going to talk about this in a video, just because there's so many misconceptions and I think people just generally have a bad perception of some of the stuff that I'm going to be discussing. Anyways, I guess here we are, so I've decided to talk about it. First off, I do want to say that everything that I'm talking about in this video today is 100% legal. The 2018 Farm Bill made industrial hemp a full agricultural commodity. I think this can be a little confusing for some people, so I do want to clarify that this is not an illegal substance, and if you want to check the legal status, I will link that information below in the description. Today's video is not sponsored by any company, and I will not be recommending any brands in this video. However, in the future, I will be doing sponsorships and promotions with companies that I feel are the best in the industry. So let's start off with some background information. I suffer from anxiety disorders that include anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and PTSD, to name a few. I also suffer from high functioning depression and fibromyalgia pain. My anxiety is both genetic and post-traumatic, and I've been dealing with it for almost my entire life. I can remember having anxiety attacks since before the age of 10. I've also dealt with depression for a long time, but that one feels a little newer to me because I was in denial about my depression for a very long time, really until recently, for the last few years. Over the last several years, I have had therapy and I've learned to manage my anxiety and live with it better. I am very sensitive to medication and I'm unable to take most types of medication. Heavy medication makes my symptoms worse, and light medication really has no effect on me. Because of this, I've had to learn how to manage my anxiety using alternative methods. For example, I've had a service dog for the last 6 years, and this has helped my life tremendously, and over the last few years my life really has improved. I made a video about my service dog and everything that he helps me with, and just about him, and further information about my anxiety and depression, so I will link that video down below in the description. But to give a little bit of a brief explanation, my service dog helps me manage my anxiety. It does not prevent my anxiety from happening, it's just a way for me to be able to live with it. But to give some brief information, my service dog helps me manage my anxiety and control panic attacks. He is trained to perform task work that helps me manage my anxiety. However, as much as this is amazing and incredibly helpful, it does not prevent me from having anxiety. It, I guess, kind of treats the symptoms. It is a way for me to be able to manage it, but it is not a way for me to be free of anxiety. In general, my animals help me manage my depression and really help me learn to live with it. However, again, this is not a way to prevent my depression. It's just a way to be able to learn to live with it. Now, I've always been on the straight and narrow. I'm the type of person that will not take anything that a doctor hasn't given me to take. And even then, I'm very hesitant towards it, and I ask a million questions, and I just don't like taking stuff, and I want to know what's going into my body, and I want to be careful. And if you are somebody who is hesitant or has a negative perspective of CBD, I completely understand. I was in your shoes until recently. I guess I don't share much about myself privately, even with family and friends. And recently, people have been telling me how well I'm doing and how it's so awesome how I'm doing. And the truth is that the last few months have been some of the best and worst moments for me, and the ups and downs have just been incredibly hard and emotionally exhausting. Back in April, my anxiety was at an all-time high, and then by May, I had fallen into a depression where it seemed like my anxiety didn't even matter anymore. For me, my anxiety is something that I can fight, that I can keep pushing through. Like, the way that I feel about it is like, I can, even if it's bad, I can still keep trying. And when it comes to getting the depression, I feel like I just can't. Like, I just can't keep trying. It's so much harder for me than the anxiety to actually be able to push through. And so once my depression hit, I just lost all motivation and I just couldn't keep going. And I realized that I just was not in a good place, and that I had to try something. I had to do something to try to make my life better. And all of this was because of things that were going on in my life completely outside of YouTube, just things that had been happening, things, you know, with the animals and with my family. And so it was just very, very hard on me. And since I'm already prone to the anxiety and depression, it was something that just really affected that mental state of my life. Now, my husband had been asking me to try CBD for a while before this, and I didn't want to. And then finally, after a lot of research and trying to understand it and trying to figure out what the best way would be for me to take it, and finally getting comfortable with the idea, I decided to give it a try. I was just at that point where I was like, I can't like lose much more. I have to try something. So at that point, I finally decided to give in and just give it a shot. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I thought this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna do anything for me. If I do feel anything at all, it's gonna be like a placebo effect. Like, this isn't something that's gonna help. I just did not believe in it at all. But I was willing to try it. I was like, well, what do I have to lose? So I finally decided to try to take CBD. Now, fast forward 5 minutes and I was a true believer. Like, that is really how quickly this worked. It was incredible, just so incredibly amazing. The first 2 hours, I kept thinking, is this all in my head? This can't be real. Like, it felt so strange. It felt good, like not strange in a bad way. It felt like me. I didn't feel any different. I still had worries and problems and things like that, but also things to look forward to. And I was just me, but without the anxiety and the depression. Anxiety makes you question yourself and your decisions. Like, just after you've already decided what you want, it just makes you question everything. And suddenly that was gone. It wasn't any anxiety and depression. It was just me. And I will say that the same cannot be said about medication. It definitely affects you differently. This one just targeted that side of my brain. There was nothing else that I felt different about. And it's totally normal for medication to make you different, to make you a little bit different than yourself. Like, I've seen it way too many times with my own friends when they've gotten on medications for, you know, the same things, and they kind of turn into a different person sometimes. And besides that, the medication takes weeks to work oftentimes, and I am not exaggerating with you when I say that the CBD worked in 5 minutes for me. I can't even believe something could work that quickly, but that's how it worked for me. And as a disclaimer, I do want to say that this is my experience. It may be different for other people, but all of this is just my experience on it. And I kept wondering if the CBD was actually working for me or if it was just all in my head, because I just felt so liberated from my anxiety and depression, and it felt so good. But I was like, how is this possible? What's really going on here? And at the time, I was actually, right after I had tried it, I was out in public doing some shopping, and I kept thinking about how the people around me were just drenched in perfume and cologne and things like that, and it was just, I could smell it so heavy on everybody. And one woman walked by me and I just wanted to gag because it felt like she was so covered in perfume. And I told my husband this. I was just like, oh, I can smell everything. And he tells me that's the side effect of the CBD, is a heightened sense of smell. And that's when I realized that this was not just in my head. Like, this was working. Like, this was actually doing something to my brain. Over the last 3 months, I've been using CBD for my anxiety. If I have an anxiety attack, if I think that I'm going to be going into a situation in which is going to give me anxiety. I do have certain triggers that do affect my anxiety and my depression, and I am able to kind of tell if I'm going to be in a certain situation in which I will have anxiety or something that could lead me to have a panic attack. And so I've been using my CBD anytime I'm going to do something. And for example, funerals are very triggering for me, and this is where I had my first panic attack many years ago, and so that's just something that I'm not able to cope with. And around the time that I started using the CBD is when my grandmother passed away. And around the time that my grandmother passed away is when I had started using CBD and trying to use it to prevent my anxiety, to try to prevent anxiety and panic attacks. And I was helping my mom during this time to make the funeral arrangements and to go to the funeral home and do the preparations and all of that. And that was something that normally I would never have been able to get through. I would never have been able to cope with, even with Caspian. That was something that was just too triggering for me to be in those situations. And with the CBD, I was able to help my mom through the entire process and just mourn and feel sad and feel everything, but not have anxiety over it. And that was an incredible thing for me, because I was able to experience the whole thing and help my family and be there for my family and not have the anxiety weighing down on me. And normally I just wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to help. I wouldn't have been able to be there for other people. And it wouldn't just be because of my own grief. It's not because of that. I was able to cope with the situation, but it would be because of my anxiety, just something that I cannot control myself, that I wouldn't have been able to do that. And with the CBD, I was able to get through it. It was so just incredible. I think a moment where I really understood that I was getting better. And this has really shown me that living with anxiety is so incredibly difficult. Just to be able to experience these things without anxiety has shown me that anxiety makes it so much harder, so much more difficult. And being able to experience ups and downs like a normal, healthy person is just the best thing. I mean, you can't prevent bad things from happening, but being able to cope with them and being able to respond correctly in those situations is an incredible blessing. And it's been amazing to see what life is like without having the anxiety and the depression to the point where it's crippling. Now I'm just experiencing life, experiencing the ups and the downs and the wonderful moments and the sad moments and crying and laughing and all of that without the anxiety and depression, just being myself. So you might be wondering how I take my CBD. So looking into all the different methods of how to be able to take CBD to get it into your body, I decided to actually go with a vapor. Now this is kind of weird for me, even really sounds weird saying it in a video. I had never smoked anything, I never smoked at all, so I actually didn't even really know how to do it. But I decided to go with a vapor because it was going to be the quickest way to get the CBD into my system and to be able to use it as needed. And that was kind of part of my frustration with the anxiety, is that when I was having such bad anxiety, it was coming on very suddenly, and I decided to choose the vapor because I went from moments where I was okay to all of a sudden I was really bad, and I wanted to be able to have something immediate, like at that moment. Now a lot of people take CBD in the oil form, like through a dropper, and then they put it into a drink, a beverage, something like that, and take it on a daily basis, like at a certain time of the day. And I think that that's a really good option, but for me that seems to be more of an option for somebody who's going to take it every single day, and it's used for something chronic, something that's that they need to treat on a daily basis. And with me, my anxiety is a little bit different than that. It's not something that I don't want to take CBD every day. I want to take CBD as I need it for my anxiety. And so using the vapor was kind of the way to do that, whereas with the dropper, it was going to be more of a daily routine. Another way that people take the CBD is through gummies or consumables. And this again is another good option for some people, but it does take longer to work. It can take about half an hour to actually kick in. So that's why I decided to go with the vapor, because it was extremely fast. So I use the vapor when my anxiety happens, when it's kicking in, or right before I'm about to go into something that I think would actually cause for me to have anxiety. Now it takes about 5 minutes to work, and I can also control how much CBD I'm taking. Based on how I'm feeling, how bad I'm feeling, I will smoke more or less. It was weird. It was weird for me, especially the feeling of the smoke going into my lungs did not feel great. I do not understand how people smoke. This was something that I, was hoping would work. I know I wasn't too convinced, but I was willing to try to use it. Kind of like how you would use medication if you had something physically wrong with you. So it was something I was willing to try, but I can't imagine just smoking just because, like, it doesn't feel good. And the thing about the CBD vapor is that it has very little smoke actually, especially compared to like a normal vapor or cigarette that has a lot of smoke, and this had very little, and it still was like yuck to my lungs. Like, I didn't like the way that it felt. It kind of made my throat scratchy. It's something that I've gotten a little bit more used to. And you also do have to think of, are you doing something to your lungs by taking this? And I guess that's kind of like part of the risk. But for me, I researched very hard about the type of products that I was going to be using. I wanted to make sure that the vapor was safe. There are very cheaply made vapors that do cause problems that have other chemicals besides the CBD. So that's something that you have to be careful with and make sure that you're putting something as clean as possible into your body. But weighing the cost of a little bit of lung issues versus an anxiety-free life, it's worth it to me. Maybe not everybody will feel the same about it, but to me, I am so incredibly happy living without my anxiety. Now, I've also been using the vapor, the CBD, for pain. So I get really bad pain, the fibromyalgia pain, and I don't like taking medication. And so I'll try to deal with my pain, and then sometimes I let my pain get to the point where I really need medication, but it's like gone too far, and so it takes me a while to actually get my pain under control, and so I'll need like higher doses of medication, and the medication takes longer to kick in. So it's not a good thing. And so with the CBD, as soon as I start getting pain, I use it, and my pain is so much more manageable and under control, and I really don't even think about it very much after that. Now, I have not had an episode of depression since I started taking CBD. I've been using CBD for my anxiety. I went on vacations this summer, 3 vacations to San Francisco, Colorado, and Las Vegas. And I did not take my service dog on any of those trips because I didn't need to. And I actually have not used my service dog for public access for 2 months. Actually, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna say 2 months. Over 2 months, I have not used my service dog for public access. I absolutely love Caspian, and I'm so incredibly grateful for Caspian. And he's helped me so much as my service dog. He's helped me so much, and I also love having him as a companion just because he is also my pet, and so just having him with me is incredibly special to me. But I don't think that people quite understand what it is to have a service dog, and it's not as perfect as people make it out to be. And people are like, oh, I'd love to take my dog everywhere. And that's great. Yeah, everybody wants to be able to take their dog everywhere. How would you like to not be able to go anywhere without your service dog? And some people at the moment might think, oh, well, that's fine, whatever. I would always want to take my dog. But there are certain situations in which you can't take a dog because you would be prevented from doing certain things. So I think people forget that when you have a service dog, especially like for me, I don't have any mobility issues. So I can physically do all kinds of things, but with a service dog, I can't. And I'm very limited to the types of activities that I can actually participate in because I have a service dog. So my service dog has helped me incredibly, and but it also has put limits on what I can do. And over the last 6 years, that's okay. That's something I can live with, because for me, it was having a service dog and being able to do this much, or not having a service dog and not being able to do anything. Because without my service dog, I wasn't really even being able to leave my house. So you have to understand that I am not saying that, oh, I couldn't do anything because I had a service dog. No, I had independence and I was able to live a somewhat normal life because I had a service dog. But at the same time, there were certain things that did make it difficult. You have to think too, like you go to buy a car and you have to think, okay, where am I gonna put my service dog? That's not what most people think when they're buying a car. And now, because I don't need to use my service dog, I'm able to do so much more. And I hope this all makes sense to you. I feel like it's hard to explain, but I just want everybody to know that I am incredibly grateful for my service dog, and I feel so blessed to live in a country in which my rights to have a service dog are fully protected. And that just is so incredible to think of, like that, just being able to be in this amazing country where you have a dog that helps you live a normal life, and you're protected. You have rights. Your dog has rights. That's been incredible, and I am so grateful that I had Caspian the last 6 years, because he did so much for my life. He improved my life so much, and I got to do so much because of him. But I am also incredibly grateful to not have that dependency anymore. And it's service dogs get compared to other medical equipment often, so I guess, it's like explaining a wheelchair or a scooter. Being grateful that you have a scooter because you're able to get around, but how much more happy would it make you to be able to not need that scooter? For example, I couldn't go horseback riding with Caspian when I went out of town. And now when I've been going on my vacations, I've been able to go horseback riding and had the amazing experience of horseback riding on the beach. And that, I had that experience because I was able to use CBD for my anxiety. Now, the reason that I titled this video The Cure is because since I've been on CBD the last couple of months, I have not had any depression or panic attacks. I have dealt with anxiety, but the depression and the panic attacks were incredibly difficult, and I have not had any at all. Since then, my anxiety has been much less frequent and more under control. When I do have anxiety, I use my vapor and it works right away. Right away, I feel better and I can go on with my day. But not only that, my reactions and triggers are so different now. And I'm not using CBD as often. Maybe once or twice a week compared to 5 or 6 times a day when I started. For example, when something upsetting happens or something triggering that I feel is going to cause for me to have anxiety, I actually just don't get anxiety. It's something like I think, oh, this situation is going to make me upset. I'm going to have anxiety. And then I don't. I think, okay, this is a time when I'm going to need my vapor. I'm going to have to use it in order to feel better. But then I don't feel upset and I don't use it and I don't need it. And I believe that CBD does not just treat anxiety. I believe it fixes it. I believe that it is fixing whatever chemicals or wiring that was weird in my brain. I believe it is making it better. And And that is incredible, because after years of believing that I was always going to be like this, that nothing was ever going to fix me, I'm better. I am actually getting better. Now, speaking of making your brain better, another really neat thing about CBD is that when you do take it, your mind is incredibly clear and you feel focused and you feel like you can do more. Like, I just feel smarter when I'm on CBD. Like, my brain just works quicker and better. And I understand the hype now. I understand why people are calling this the miracle compound. I understand that this is something that people are going to be weary of and not quite understand CBD, but I do hope that if you are one of those people, that it did change your perspective of CBD a little bit. And I am going to be doing more videos, and I might even do a Q&A, so just, let me know what you thought of the video, if you have questions about it. And I would love to know your thoughts and reactions towards the video and my own experience. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time.